All right. All right. Welcome, welcome. It is More Money Monday. Today is Monday, July 28th. We're talking about dairy compliance with the new forms, and there was a statewide broker meeting with the state broker Pam and the agents last week. Some of you attended. Did any of you jump on? I know Laura said she did. Susie was on. Good. Okay. So there's a couple of changes that I wanted to make sure you knew about because it affects what information can be passed over to the other side that is not anymore allowed, right? So on the purchase agreement now, it does not give you the ability to share the BRBC information. So the first iteration that we had from last year, July of last year, was the first time on the purchase agreement where it said, hey, we're going to have to show what the commission is as a concession. And then we also have to provide within 3 days, if it's requested, we had to provide our buyer representation agreement to the other side, showing that we had an agreement with our client sharing, with a certain amount of commission. Now that is not allowed. So we are not sharing any of our personal client contract with the listing agent during the escrow. Can't do it. Okay. So make sure that you keep your BRBC to yourself. I guess is the best way of saying that. Don't share that anymore. There's a couple of updates, and I wanted to go to the car.org website and show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. We're not going to take too much time today, but I did want to show you this. Okay, there's a couple of updates, and if you go to car.org, this is under risk management. This is the tools. I'm going to go back one screen and show you how I got there. Okay, I went to this one, July 2024 practice changes. But you can see there's some other things here, like the seller concessions guide. That was from 2024, whatever. Revisions from the listing agreement too. So there's some changes going on. You just need to be aware so that you are conducting your practice appropriately. The first one talks about post MLS rule changes. So on the 2024 forms, it removed the broker option to show broker compensation. Remember on your listing agreement not to put any comments about what the buyer broker will receive. I've seen a couple listings roll through where the listing agent has put the seller commission amount and what they're offering the buyer, which is not allowed, right? Like that's the whole point of that NAR lawsuit. So make sure that you don't put any comments about broker to broker compensation on your paperwork. Okay. Can't do it. All right. This one, what should a buyer's broker do during the transition period? I find that odd. That's not where we are. Okay, hold on. That's not what I wanted. Okay. Backing it up. Okay. 2024 broker update. This is not 2025. Oh, quick guide, new law.
Up on the top buyer representation. What about up in the top buyer representation agreement?
Yeah. So this is what's new, what's not, is what it's called. This is a quick guide. If you've never been to car.org and looked at their quick guides, this is super, super helpful. The main issue that we have with agents now with the new process is agents are not getting a representation agreement signed before they show a property, and sometimes not before they write an offer. According to our new laws, we can't do that. So make sure that you either have that PSRA, which is a property showing agreement that you have from an open house, which is kind of a limited agency for a few properties, or that you have a full-on BRBC and it has to be signed and dated before you write an offer. So send them separately is best practice on that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that you don't run afoul of that law where maybe sometimes they signed the offer, but they forgot to sign the representation agreement before the offer. We're going to have some problems with that. And we don't want to have any kind of audit coming back and saying, hey, you didn't follow the rule. I don't know what kind of penalties there will be, but we want to make sure that we have the BRBC signed before and dated before any offer. Okay. The term limit to, remember, the buyer representation agreement is only good for 90 days. So make sure that you're also getting extensions on those, because a lot of times your buyer representation is going to go longer than 90 days, right? Hey, welcome. Good to see you guys. We have friends join us since I was here last on the screen. Okay, does anybody have questions about the buyer representation and how to do that? Okay. Remember that your buyer representation agreement has a specific amount of commission. And if you run into a situation where the commission is different on the offer than it is on your representation agreement, make sure that you complete a modification of terms for the buyer agreement. Okay.
Krista, I have a question.
Mhm.
Is the buyer financial form required or is that optional?
No, it's optional.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a couple in there on the Intel Agent Now that are optional, and that is one. Another one is there's a buyer financial one, and there's another one that has to do with showing you have to have some representation agreement, but the PSRA is not required. Another thing to note too is I saw that there's now a line or a field for the additional tax, the seller's tax, supplemental tax. That's what it's called. That is already in the NHD. So if you have a natural hazard disclosure report and all of that, it has all of these disclosures like the Megan's Law database and the combined hazards, natural hazards is all in there on the NHD report. So in my opinion, you don't have to do the supplemental tax form. You can refer to the NHD if you have it, because the language is in there. The same thing, I know sometimes people are still using the combined hazards report that is in zip forms in the additional library. It's kind of outdated. That's the one that has the little check boxes on it and then signatures below. In the NHD, there is a combined hazards disclosure link with all of them, like the mold and the radon and all the things. So you don't need to pull that down from zip forms anymore. You can upload the one form that has the links in it from your NHD. Okay, but mainly I just want you to be aware of the process on the purchase agreement now. Do not share your buyer representation agreement with the listing agent. They don't get it anymore. It's not allowed. Don't do that. And then, like I said on the listing, don't list anything that has to do with a buyer broker commission.
Okay.
These are the two things that we're seeing that are an issue.
Question, Krista.
Okay.
Rajan?
Sorry.
Yeah, like last time I got asked by the listing agent if she have a in place like the buyer's broker agreement, and I sent to her. So I don't need to send her the buyer's broker agreement if the listing agent asks.
They cannot ask for it.
Okay.
As of the update just recently, in June, that has been removed from the purchase agreement. There is no way for them to reference it on the agreement.
But
Okay.
Krista, sometimes the TCs and other broker offices, they want it for their compliance kind of form. Can we say no, it's not?
Yeah, you can say no.
Okay.
You have an agency agreement, right? Remember
Yeah.
on the purchase agreement, the first thing
Yeah.
is agency disclosure?
Yeah.
That's it. You're the
Okay.
agent.
Okay, because sometimes they ask for all that, you know. Okay,
Can't have it.
okay.
I think the TC should be careful because that's how, information are. I mean, I haven't sent any, so the buyer and the buyer's agent agreement is between the buyer and the agent, not the seller. So
Right.
it cannot go to the seller.
Right. And that was the reason why Carr pulled it out. I think they realized that that was kind of a breach of your agency, right? With your client. They shouldn't have
Correct.
that information. The idea was they wanted to make sure that we didn't ask for a commission that was higher than what was agreed to on our buyer representation agreement, but that's really none of the seller's business. Does that make sense? Like,
Right.
it has nothing to do with the purchase agreement at all. So, in relation to that, make sure that you don't do a buyer rep agreement for $1 and then go ask for 3%. You can't do that either, right? That's still an issue. You cannot ask for a higher commission than what's on your buyer representation agreement. You can always modify it to align with whatever your offer is, up or down. But you can't say, let's give an example. If I'm buying something myself, I can't say my rep agreement is $1 and then go ask for 2.5% or 3% commission, because that's not what's on my agreement. So never write $1.
But
Yeah.
Krista, let's say on a counter, they counter renegotiate the commission, even though we had 2.5 and they countered to 2.
Mhm.
That's okay, right? Because
Yeah.
it's in the
Yeah,
contract.
it's totally negotiable. And
Okay.
that's why I'm saying, like, don't just put a random number on there. Put what you expect to get, whatever you're operating at 2, 2.5, 3.5, 4, I don't care. But you have to make sure that it lines up. In California, and I found that this is not the same in other states, as I've been talking to other district directors, but in California, you have to have those two numbers align if your buyer is not going to be contributing, right? So if you have an amount that you put in the purchase agreement at 3.5, 4, whatever it is, and it gets negotiated lower, if it falls below what you have on the buyer representation agreement, you need to have a conversation with your buyer, right? Most of us aren't going to say, Mr. Buyer, cough it up. We're going to modify the representation agreement, right? So that that expectation is met, and when you get to escrow, it's all the same. Okay. Those are the things that I wanted to make sure you are aware of. Buyer representation agreement signed before you write any offers. Send them separately, get it signed first, then send your offer out.
And Krista, were you going to cover how to put it on the wiki, Fathom wiki, if we don't get accepted?
Okay, so if you're a buyer, you're representing the buyer, right?
Right.
And you have an offer that's not accepted, you can put that in the buyer,
You start a new transaction, right? You start a new transaction.
no, you can put under, here's what I would do. If you're writing an offer on a property with your buyer, you can put it under rejected contract or rejected agreement or something along those lines. Because otherwise you would have to be canceling and starting over, started it, and that's like ridiculous. So I don't feel like you'd want to do that necessarily on the purchase. Just put it in as an unaccepted offer and date
But
it.
is there like a tab for something like
No,
that?
it needs to be uploaded as a custom document. I guess that's what I should do.
A custom document? There's a tab, you put custom document and you upload it and that's it?
Yes, exactly. So you need to name it. Do you know, like when you go into IntelliAgent and you're uploading extra documents, let's say I have a floor plan that the seller has.
Yeah, I
provided.
know how to add extra documents,
Exactly.
but
Same
that's
thing.
like in a transaction. But what
Yes.
I'm saying, there is a tab for cancel transactions or something, or upload, just
No, you need to name it as a custom document.
right. But so I need to do a new transaction, put in the property information, and then upload it as like the BRBA and then the RPA as cancel transaction or something?
Honestly, I feel like no. What I would do is when you have a buyer representation agreement and you've got your agency, you start a transaction for the buy side. You write an offer on a property and it gets rejected and they're not going to go forward.
Right.
Upload it into that same file, put the property address and put rejected, dated, blah, 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 and just put it in that file. Because otherwise you'd be starting files over and over on rejected transactions. That doesn't make sense to me. I would just leave it in the transaction with your buyer because it's part of the record of that agency. Does that make sense? And then when you get into contract on something, that's what goes on the transaction.
Laura, I think the part that's missing is, so obviously when you put in a transaction, you put the address at the very top and all the buyer's name. She's saying in that same transaction, grab the cancel one, put it in as
Category.
the what's that? I already
Custom
found it.
document.
Yeah, exact document. And then when they go into escrow for another one, at the top, you change the address to the current transaction address.
Yeah, I wouldn't put an address on it at all, is what I'm saying. You have a buyer transaction where you're representing them as the agent, but you're not in contract. So put the rejected offer under that buyer agency transaction. When you get into escrow, that's what goes on the address and all the documentation, but you still need to show somewhere that you wrote an offer that got rejected and it's attached to that buyer. Does that make sense?
Well, that's why I was wondering if there is a tab specifically for that. All I've seen is new categories.
No, you're gonna name it as a custom document and you can name it rejected offer, address, date.
Okay, I'll have to look into that because I don't remember seeing that, but I'll look
Yeah,
into that.
it's not a field. You need to make it a custom document name.
You name it, the address and date. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So Laura, it's before you go into escrow, you put in an offer, right? And
Yeah,
that offer
right.
gets rejected. There's
Right.
no address there. So under documents, you put in the custom document as that rejected offer. Just
Correct.
you can have records. Once you go into escrow, the address gets added, for the new
Mhm.
yes,
Yes.
gets added at the top. Does that make sense,
Yes.
Laura?
Well, I'm gonna I'll have to go into the website to explore that because it doesn't make sense right now because I'm not seeing it, but I'll look into it.
Okay, yeah. If you want, I can, let me do this. Hang on.
So
'Cause what I
Krista,
did was-
excuse
I'm gonna just show you real quick, kind of
Because
what
I made it a transaction, but then I canceled it, but I'm still gonna be, I'm
yeah,
still
you can do that.
working. I'm still working with that buyer, so.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So it's a lot of extra effort, Laura, to do what you're doing. And so I'm trying to save you some time by saying, start the buyer representation, right? You're on the purchase side, you've got your buyer agency, upload all your agency information.
Okay,
And then as you're writing offers, if you wrote an offer that got rejected, put it in that same buyer representation folder that you'll eventually have as an escrow. But save that rejected offer as a custom document so that it's recorded and we have a record that they had written an offer that was rejected. Because there's nowhere else to put it, honestly. And I don't want you to have to keep putting in rejected transactions
gotcha.
as a canceled, because it's not really a transaction, right? It's just an offer.
You're right, exactly. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I'll have to go in there and play with
It
them. find
it makes sense, but Krista, if you can quickly show, it will be easy.
Well, this is the thing, right? I can show you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to
Yeah.
try to share my screen.
So what you're saying is you don't have to put an address in. So can you put
Right.
to be determined there? Or-
Exactly right. Exactly right. So if I go,
I think that's where the confusion is.
yeah, I'm going to just jump over here and I'm going to
I see incomplete address. I see that.
It can say incomplete address, right? So if I had a buyer, in this case, who's the buyer? I just made myself a buyer apparently. So if I had a rejected transaction, like an rejected
Offer.
right?
Offer.
I would add the document right here. I'd browse my files, pick something. I'm just gonna throw this Fathom overview in here. Sure. Okay, this would be the custom document that is a rejected offer. I would put that in here, pick all the things, and then over here where it says custom, add a custom document. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Mhm.
So I'm gonna save those pages. Then I'm gonna go down to add a custom document. I don't see anything that says,
Here,
unaccepted
right here.
rejected offer. Do you see it?
okay,
Okay. And then you can throw that in there if you wanted to. Yeah, we can leave it just like that and click OK.
okay, so it's a category in when you're adding documents. Okay,
Yeah,
but
you can do it that way.
but
Mhm.
it's still a transaction then.
No, it's not. You weren't in contract. It's not a transaction.
It's in your transaction you opened up for your buyer.
Yeah, that's right. So this buyer has not gone
Keep
into
using
escrow.
that until you get them under
Right.
contract and then you put the address in.
Mhm.
Ah,
When
gotcha.
I go into
Okay,
escrow, then this gets filled in, but while I'm working with my buyer, I need to have a record that they wrote an offer, right?
okay.
So that's where it's gonna live, and it's gonna go down here.
Now, let's say we don't get into anything and I stop working with them, whatever, for
Mhm.
whatever reason. Do I need to close this out or just leave it open like that?
No, you would cancel your agency agreement or show that it had expired, and then you would go up here and terminate it.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Is that helpful?
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. All right. Well, that's helpful. I'm glad. The other way would be if you wanted to, if you have multiple, then I would go in and name it instead of just clicking unaccepted or rejected. Honestly, I think it's cleaner if you put the date and the property address on there so that you can track that as you've gotten these different offers in. Like if you're writing 3, 4, 5 offers, they all need to be in there because it's part of your agency. Does that make sense? Like that was part of your actions while you're working as an agent. You have to document it and save it.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. That was a good question. All right. Does anyone else have any questions related to your client representation or things in IntelliAgent?
Well, just I want to point out one of the things I noticed on the RPA is there's no longer all the inspection stuff. You have to write it in,
Mm-hmm.
right? No more checkbox buyer who pays termite or whatever, because it used to be.
Yeah. And make sure that you when you have an entity, make sure you check the boxes for the entity buyer or seller. Sometimes I see that where there's a trust, but the signature shows a name and there's no trust name, date, anything. Make sure you check the box for the entity buyer or seller so that you don't have to do that representative capacity disclosure document. I see that a lot where somebody will say, oh, it's a trust. Great, where's the paperwork? And there should be a trust advisory too. All right, any other transaction questions? Sorry. No? Okay, if you haven't taken a look at the new documents, go into CAR, just pull up started just a general transaction and pull down the new RPA and the listing agreements. Get familiar with the rep agreement as well, so that you are making sure that you're not committing some sort of risk issue with your paperwork. That's really all I had. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on how to engage with sellers as a buyer's agent. No longer giving them the BRBC. On the listing side, don't write any commission information for the buyer. Anybody else have questions? I don't see anything else. Cool. All right. Anybody want to share with us any listings you've got coming up? Buyer needs, wants, any of that? I'm happy to open the floor to you all if you've got something you want to share with the group here. If you've got your contact information, I see some of us put some info in the chat. Actually, just me. That's very sad. Gotta put your contact information in the chat. That way you all can connect with each other offline. I can tell by who's on that you guys are kind of spread all over the state as well. So there's definitely some referrals that could go out for sure. Hey, Lilia, do you still have those properties in Auburn? Are they still active?
Yes, it's still active. Everyone says it's very beautiful and it priced correctly, but we still have them. Seems
Okay.
it's our first time in Auburn. No, actually we had one house like a few years ago, but it was more slower than in Sacramento, you know. We used to do business in Sacramento area. Also was faster than Auburn.
Yeah. Folsom's a very busy market. It's very active.
So I
Awesome.
have for sale a lot in El Dorado Hills. Actually 2 lots in El Dorado Hills. And I will put on the market soon duplex in Roseville. It's like more close to downtown, very convenient location. So it will be brand new attached. No,
Attached.
detached. 2 houses on one. So, but it's duplex.
Awesome, okay. And then I had an agent ask if we have anybody who's near Twain Hart. Anybody near Twain Hart? Willing to do a listing in Twain Hart? It's kind of far out, so I just wanted to throw that out there. All right. If you are interested in a listing in Twain Hart, give me a holler. I'll connect you with the agent. They're out of area, Fathom agent. They're looking for someone to help them out. That's all I have. Anyone else? Let's see. iPhone. Do you want to introduce yourself? I'm not quite sure who's listed as iPhone. Who is that?
I don't think he
iPhone.
realizes he's listed as iPhone.
All right. There's a gentleman I can see that's on his phone. Oh, awesome. All right. So it says Peter Scott Delator. All right, groovy. All right, that's all I have for now. If you have questions about the agency agreement and how to work on the RPA as far as representing your client, let me know. But for sure, download them. They have changed the form slightly. And then on car.org, you can get a synopsis. They have these quick reference guides that kind of walk you through what the changes are. Or you can download a lined out, redlined copy of the changes so you can kind of see what's been modified from the last version of the RPA. Okay.
Thank you, Krista.
You are welcome. All right, have a super good week. Good seeing you all. And if you have questions and you want to connect, let me know. If you're interested in doing a quick 30-minute kind of business review with me, like a one-on-one with some strategy, shoot me a text and I'll be happy to help you with that. Okay. Have a good week, all.
Thank you. You too.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.